President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Distinguished heads of state and delegations, I'm happy to welcome you. I'm always happy to see you, our friends and partners. I wish you a pleasant stay at Dushanbe, and I wish all of us a productive discussion. I declare this meeting of CIS heads of state open. Tajikistan is closely cooperating with the member states and the executive committee, continuing a comprehensive work to implement its agenda. Over a dozen various activities at various levels were held. We have continued our efforts to expand our trade and economic cooperation, developing transport and logistics connectivity, and digital integration. President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. President of Turkmenistan, Serdar Berdimuhamedov. President of the Kyrgyz Republic, Sardar Japarov. President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. President of the Republic of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko. Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev. Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Independent States, Sergei Lebedev. The floor is given to President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Please. Thank you. Just as the previous speakers, I'm very grateful
и всем нашим таджикистанским друзьям за
all of our friends
организацию
in
нашей
Tajikistan
работы.
for
Это
organizing
всегда требует
the work
определенных усилий. Мы видим,
of the summit. It
что наши
always requires a lot of
таджикистанские
effort,
хозяева
and we
сегодняшние
see that
сделали все для того, чтобы создать
Tajikistan, our
необходимые
host,
условия.
has made every effort
Как не раз
to
справедливо
all the
отмечалось, за
conditions for
более
our
чем
work.
3
As
десятилетия
it has been
Содружество
noted,
независимых
three
государств
decades
утвердилось в качестве авторитетного регионального и интеграционного
its existence
объединения.
have
И я
shown
думаю, что
CIS to be an authoritative regional integration entity. And I think it's most important that we managed to retain this platform for communication, a common market and humanitarian cooperation space to a large extent. It's very important for the citizens of our countries. And we did not only preserve what we had, we managed to grow the economic, social, and cultural and humanitarian ties, even though times have changed. As to trade and economic cooperation, Russia's trade with the CIS countries in 2024 alone, Mr. Tokayev spoke about Kazakhstan, and I can say about Russia that Russia's trade with CIS countries grew by 7% to $112 billion. We're seeing consistent improvement in the trade mix, thanks to the growth of high added value products. It's something I would like to make a note of. This is clear evidence that there is an improvement of our quality of trade. There is a sustainable and independent financial infrastructure being developed by our countries. Nearly all of our settlements are now in national currencies. Their shares in the first half of 2025 were 96% in our commercial operations. It doesn't mean that we are refused to use other tools, but it means that we have increased sovereignty and independence, which is very important in today's work. Despite all the challenges, we are developing investments and our own capital markets. I also heard the proposals by President Lukashenko about deepening our cooperation ties within the CIS. Now, we know what our history has been over these 30 years, and it was quite expected that the Eurasian Economic Union was established because we could not find the mechanisms that could answer to all of our interests within the CIS framework, and a group of countries emerged that decided to deepen their economic integration ties, and so they formed the EAU, and the doors of the Eurasian Economic Union are always open, and we had conversations about this here with the colleagues, and I think it is very beneficial. It creates economic opportunities, it opens the market, creates cooperation opportunities, and the bottom line is that it's a very useful format. Now we have the current situation, of course, but what is the trade with Armenia currently? What is the figure? This year it's $4 billion. No, I think it's more. This year. Last year we had about 9 billion. Last year we had more, and this year we will also have more. It's quite obvious. But what really matters is that the tools at our disposal within the EAU allow us to realize opportunities even if the external situation is different. And we are engaged in a dialogue with some of our colleagues. But if something can be done within the CIS framework, I agree with Mr. Lukashenko. All of this will be welcome, if someone wants to implement new mechanisms and new tools to deepen our cooperation, I think we should pursue that, because it's hard not to agree that economic cooperation is the bedrock on which all the other solutions are built. And of course, we should help our entrepreneurial communities to implement large industrial and infrastructure projects. We're now modernizing the supply chains and transport linkages, discussing transcontinental logistics corridors, north-south, west-east. And I was very interested to hear from Kazakhstan regarding its plans. Kazakhstan has a huge territory in the middle of the Commonwealth, so it's a very important logistics hub for all of our countries. This would present great opportunities. There is now import substitution within CIS countries, and I think everyone now agrees that what matters is not just to substitute something, but to be leaders in the key areas. And we have the possibilities to lead. We should not only be independent, but we should lead in certain respects. And this is entirely possible, considering the immense intellectual potential that we have since the Soviet times, and that is now being developed in the modern era. Innovation, digitalization, the comprehensive use and sustainable use of natural resources, all of that is very important. An important aspect of the CIS is fighting terrorism and extremism, corruption, and we're doing everything we can to strengthen our cooperation in these respects. So we certainly support the documents that are being adopted today, the counter-terrorism program of action, the joint activities plan for protecting external borders, the updated military cooperation concept, the statement on countering transnational crime, and the fight against money laundering, strengthening energy security. And I wholeheartedly agree with the statements made regarding the importance of our humanitarian cooperation. Our colleagues here mentioned sports activities. The Commonwealth Games were held in Azerbaijan, and this is a lot of work, and it's something that merits attention from all of our countries, and we should certainly support it. And a team of Russian athletes, a very representative team, took part in the events. Recently, we celebrated the 80th anniversary of the great victory, and I'd like to thank the leaders of CIS countries who came to Moscow to take part in the parade. It is very symbolic that together with the Russian military units of the national military units of CIS countries marched in unison, and we're also very grateful for that. CIS partners also supported Russia's initiative to institute the title of City of Labor Glory. 17 cities in CIS countries are now granted this title, recognizing their role in the war effort during the Great Patriotic War. And of course, we are coordinating our positions on the domestic track, which is also important, given the challenging situation. And the statements made with regard to the 80th anniversary of the United Nations also merit attention. And as it has already been said, we support the strengthening of contacts between our partners and the CIS, including the SCO. And granting the SCO observer status is very important. the potential of both organizations could be used to ensure the safe and sustainable development of our countries and the Eurasian region as a whole. We support the decision to institute the new CIS Plus format, which will allow us to engage other states and international entities more actively. And of course, I'm very grateful for the support of Mr. Lebedev's candidacy to the post of the Secretary General. He's well respected and recognized as of someone who will be very effective in this role. Our Turkmen friends who will take up the Commonwealth presidency are also, we congratulate them with us, and I would like to say that we will be happy to see you in the run-up to the new year for an informal meeting in St. Petersburg. I already informed some of my colleagues about the results of our Anchorage meeting with the Presidents of the United States regarding the Ukrainian crisis settlement. And I think we will have more opportunities to discuss this in a narrow circle. And I think I would be happy to tell you more about this and about our plans and vision for the further resolution of the Ukrainian conflict based on the key principles that were discussed in Alaska. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Уважаемые участники заседания, продолжаем заседание Совета глав государств Содружества независимых государств. Прежде всего, еще раз приветствую уважаемых коллег и всех
Integration entity. And the most important thing, I believe, is that we've managed to preserve this platform for communication and as a common market.
Выражаю искреннюю признательность всем за плодотворное содействие председательству нашей страны и реализации намеченных в концепции ее председательства целей и задач. Повестка дня сегодняшнего заседания охватывает широкий круг наших вопросов. В нее в том числе включены вопросы дальнейших совместных усилий по противодействию терроризму и экстремизму, укрепления пограничного,
Counter-terrorism and extremism, strengthen border cooperation, develop military cooperation, as well as promoting energy stability. The statements adopted today, time to commemorate the anniversary of the creation of the United Nations and the Chernobyl disaster, reflect our desire to promote international peace and security. We're also instituting the CIS Plus format and according the SEO and observer status at the CIS. This is an important step in the expansion of our international cooperation. Esteemed colleagues, this will promote our cultural heritage and help us create an atmosphere of solidarity at the CIS. Tajikistan will continue to promote cooperation in this area. During our restricted format meeting, we had a substantive discussion of our cooperation and made a number of important decisions. And I'm sure that our joint efforts will make all of this possible. The meeting of heads of state in the narrow format decided that starting January next year, the chairmanship in the Commonwealth will be passed over to Turkmenistan. Allow me to give the floor to Serdar.
Esteemed heads of state, allow me to express our solidarity on the decision that you made on the presidency of Turkmenistan over the CIS in 2026. We see it as a proof of respect and trust for Turkmenistan on behalf of all the member states and recognition of the contribution by our country towards the development of the Commonwealth of Independent State. We will responsibly approach our presidency. We understand the scale of the tasks that are set out for all of us that we will need to resolve together. In the nearest future, we will develop the concept of Turkmenistan's presidency in the CIS, our approaches and views on the further development of interstate cooperation, considering all the needs and requirements that are most relevant, most topical today. The document will be conveyed to the member states via the diplomatic channels. And before assuming this important mission, I would like to say that our main goal, the main goal of our presidency, is the comprehensive support towards strengthening of cooperation and partnership interaction of the member states to tap fully into the CIS potential and to efficiently develop the Commonwealth states to enhance prosperity and quality of life of our nations and of our peoples. And of course, one of the most important parts of our presidency is going to be our compliance and adherence to the principles and goals that are enshrined in its charter. We believe the CIS will continue to be an important tool of our cooperation based on equality and mutual respect in accordance with the national interests of every country. This was what ensured and will continue to ensure the work of the Commonwealth, will allow us to tap into our partnership potential and will help us make the CIS continue to exist as one of the pillars of international stability and security. Once again, thank you for the decision that you made and for the trust that you put in us. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Head of State Council, I would like to congratulate brotherly Turkmenistan with assuming presidency in the CIS. I would like to wish you, Mr. President, successful presidency and achieving all the goals set out to strengthen our cooperation. We continue with our session. Now I would like to give the floor to the Secretary General of CIS, Mr. Lebedev, to report on the decisions that were made during the narrow format session.
Heads of delegations, during the narrow format meeting, the agenda and the rules of procedure were adopted, and it is by tradition, the heads of state exchanged their opinions on the pressing issues facing our Commonwealth and the issue of presidency at the CIS was considered, and Turkmenistan will be made a president, and the co-president will be Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. As the heads of state meeting is traditionally held in the presiding state, it was decided to hold the next heads of state meeting on the 9th of October 2026 in Turkmenistan. By decision of the heads of state meeting, the Secretary General for the next 3 years will be yours truly. And I'd like to use this opportunity to thank the heads of state for this trust and our promise to continue working for the benefit of friendship and a good neighborly relation between our countries. Thank you. Colleagues, now the chairman of the Human Rights Commission, Tatiana Moskalkova, will report on the Commission's activities on its activities in 2023-2025. Please. Mr. Rahman, heads of state, colleagues, allow me to present the results of the Commission, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at such a high level in this grand historic hall. And it is quite fitting that there's the monument of the great ruler of CIS with the first Declaration of Human Rights. Our Commission started its work in November 2023 after the heads of state of CIS countries signed the new terms of reference of the Commission. The Commission carried out activities in 4 key areas: promoting best practices on the promotion of human rights in CIS countries, harmonizing human rights legislation, and the forms and methods of their protection, preparing analytical reports on topical issues concerning human rights promotion and monitoring human rights of our citizens abroad. In those 4 areas, the Commission carried out 13 country visits, including to places of detention. Members of the Commission representing Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan took part in visits to foreign citizen detention facilities in Russia. I visited Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and yesterday I worked here in the beautiful country of Tajikistan. I have visited a penal colony where I also had a conversation with the inmates. During the visit, my colleagues also had interactions with persons detained and with the representative of authorities, and most of the issues presented were addressed. Assistance regarding the restoration of documents, restoring communications with relatives, pension payments, provision of translation and interpretation services, and other issues. We see that the Commission has become a tool that provides assistance to people in difficult life situations. After monitoring and reviewing legislation and jurisprudence, we've prepared several reports, including on the rights of veterans of the Great Patriotic War and the measures to preserve the historical memory of the defeat of the Soviet people, about the protection of the young generation from destructive information online, protection of migrants' rights, the implementation of international standards across the penitentiary systems, and others. The reports with specific recommendations were presented to the relevant authorities of our countries. And all of those reports are made publicly available and can be accessed via the Executive Committee's website. We're currently preparing a thematic report on guaranteeing the rights of youth and a review report on environmental rights, as the environment spans borders, as we know. And we will have a meeting in Minsk. The Commission has adopted 3 important statements on the 80th anniversary of the Soviet people's victory in the Great Patriotic War, on the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the 30th anniversary of the Convention on the Basic Rights and Freedoms. Education activities have also been carried out. Many important projects and activities were held, and young advocates of human rights took part in the Eurasian Forum and in other important events and activities. The Commission is working on new steps to harmonize our regulatory frameworks to facilitate the promotion of human rights. We've worked with the Interparliamentary Assembly on the implementation of the model law of Human Rights Ombudsman. This model law has now run its course, and considering the new political and legal realities, we need to take and new steps to reflect this new reality. The Commission is now seeing appeals from individual people and considering the requirement for the review of such appeals to be regulated. These appeals are currently reviewed by the Executive Committee and referred to national authorities of respective countries. The Commission now has a special group that will provide you with the various options on how to organize this review process. Distinguished heads of state, we have to admit that there is now a progressive human rights promotion system within the CIS framework, and that the Commission is an effective supranational body pushing this work forward. Jointly with the Commission, the states are making steps to promote human rights and implementing human rights strategies. As the human rights international framework is being dismantled and the human rights subject is being problematized, our countries are creating a human rights system that is firmly grounded in the immutable values and unique cultural identities of our peoples, respect for historical memory, rejection of Nazism, and it is also benefiting from all of these values and has very positive prospects. We see our mission in making every effort to further help our citizens realize human rights and to carry out this work jointly with the authorities of the relevant countries. I propose that the draft decision is be adopted. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to wish you and the Commission on Human Rights of the Commonwealth a further success in your important work. Are there any questions? No questions. Decision is adopted. Based on the results of the narrow format discussions, the heads of delegations decided that considering the high level of the deliberation of the documents, there is no need for additional voting. So I propose that we start the signing ceremony. Colleagues, please.
heads of delegations, attendees of the meeting, the signing ceremony is over. But I would like to say a couple of words. With the permission of the chairperson, I would like to inform everyone here that the board of the Humanitarian Foundation with the CIS made a decision on awarding the head of the CIS Countries Council, President of the Republic of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahman, with the medal for the merits for the development of the humanitarian cooperation. To have the award ceremony, I would like to give the floor to the person who initiated this decision, a co-chair of the Interstate Foundation of Humanitarian Cooperation of the CIS countries, the board member, special representative of the President of the Russian Federation on International Cultural Cooperation, Mikhail Shvitskoy. Of course, Mr. Shvitskoy, the floor is yours. Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Tajikistan, esteemed Emomali Rahman, esteemed heads of state, participants of this meeting, first of all, I would like to thank all the heads of state for the attention that you are paying to the cultural and humanitarian cooperation across the CIS space. The foundation of the Interstate Humanitarian Cooperation was established at the initiative of the Forum of the Scientists and Artists of the CIS. Its first session took place in Moscow in 2005. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, addressed the forum back then, and over this time, over this almost 20 years, the forum held some 1,500 various events, from conferences on the matters of nuclear physics and astronomy to theater and movie festivals and literature forums, and representatives of the Republic of Tajikistan always made great contribution to these events. Here in Tajikistan, a lot of initiatives were developed. Many activists of the cultural and humanitarian cooperation at the CIS were awarded here. Twice large-scale events were held here. Large-scale events in the field of cultural capital of the CIS. Youth organizations are very active here. The House of the Youth was established here, and they also hold a lot of various events. And in his opening remarks today, President of the Republic of Tajikistan mentioned the importance of cultural and humanitarian cooperation, where Tajikistan is once again playing an essential role. And the Cultural and Humanitarian Cooperation Foundation of the CIS countries made a decision to award a medal for developing cultural and humanitarian cooperation in the CIS to the President of the Republic of Tajikistan, Mr. Emomali Rahman. The document was signed by the head of the foundation, by the board, by Palat Bulbulagli, and we would like to start the award ceremony now with the board chairman. Esteemed heads of state, heads of delegations. First of all, I would like to thank the Interstate Foundation of the Humanitarian Cooperation for making this decision to award me a medal for the merits in developing cultural and humanitarian cooperation. It's a high appreciation of the contribution of all the people of Tajikistan in developing and enhancing cultural and humanitarian ties across the Commonwealth. We are resolutely determined to continue to work together to comprehensively promote this area of cooperation and other areas of cooperation within our organization. Thank you. Esteemed attendees, we have every reason to say that it was a useful session, which yielded good results, especially that other than adopting documents, the heads of delegations had a very useful discussions on the wide range of matters of cooperation within the CIS and also under the international agenda. And the decision made here will promote cooperation across the CIS space, which is in our common interests. In conclusion, I would like to extend the words of gratitude to the delegations, to the officials and employees of the Executive Committee, to everyone who was directly involved in organizing and holding this Heads of State Summit. Thank you very much for this joint effort. The session of the Heads of State Council of the Commonwealth, I declare closed. Once again, I would like to wish every member of the delegation to enjoy their staying in the city of Dushanbe.
Уважаемые представители средств массовой информации, уважаемый Сергей Николаевич,
Colleagues, Mr. Lebedev, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the chairman of the heads of state meeting, Mr. Mamali Rahman, and members of the heads of state council of the CIS, I will present the outcomes of the summit. The talks between the heads of state of the Commonwealth of Independent States were traditionally held in a constructive atmosphere, discussing key issues on the regional and international agenda, and noting their similar positions on key international topics, emphasizing the importance of strengthening dialogue, trade and economic cooperation, and cultural and humanitarian ties within the Commonwealth. In his speech, President of Tajikistan, Mr. Rahman, summarized the country's presidency in 2025. And this year, our country, with the support of other members of the CIS, pursued a comprehensive implementation of all of the goals and objectives set by the presidency. Tajikistan held dozens of various activities and forums at various levels and in various formats, encompassing various issues of politics, economy, industry, transport and youth. The improvement of CIS activities were a priority, including promoting the positive image of the Commonwealth in the international arena, including through strengthening our cooperation with the UN, the SCO, the CSTO, and other regional and international organizations. A UN General Assembly resolution on the interaction between the UN and the CIS, sponsored by the Republic of Tajikistan, was initiated. The countries, members of our Commonwealth, signed the documents on the CIS Plus format, instituting this new format of cooperation, and also accorded the SCO an observer status at the CIS. This will help boost our cooperation and increase our visibility in the international stage. A lot of attention was paid to promoting our cooperation in various spheres. This year of presidency also saw the adoption of the second stage of our economic development strategy until 2030. The country has adopted the industrial cooperation strategy and signed an intergovernmental agreement on developing heavy machine engineering industry initiated by Tajikistan. As part of the summit, the declaration on regional energy security was adopted. Our country also initiated a digitalization strategy for multimodal transport corridors between CIS countries. This document was adopted at the heads of governments meeting in Minsk on September the 29th. During our extended format meeting, the heads of state discussed the activities of the CIS Human Rights Commission over the last 3 years. As one of the outcomes of the summit, joint statements were adopted commemorating the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, and also the 40th anniversary of the Chernobyl disaster. In the context of ensuring regional security, the heads of state adopted a cooperation program on countering terrorism and extremism until 2028. The program to strengthen border security along the external borders of the Commonwealth until 2030. The military cooperation strategy until 2030. And a declaration on regional energy security cooperation. The leaders emphasized that we're now faced with new challenges and threats, and it is only through concerted work that the international community can withstand those challenges. We're confident that the steps taken will help further solidarity within the Commonwealth and the efficiency of our cooperation. This summit has reaffirmed the CIS as an important and sustainable platform, preserving the traditions and culture of dialogue. A president of the Republic of Tajikistan thanked the Humanitarian Cooperation Council of the CIS for the distinguished award that he was presented with. Friends, our leaders today made the decision to appoint the Secretary General of the Executive Committee, Mr. Lebedev, for a new term. And we wish him continued success and wish him energy to carry this work forward. Starting January next year, a presidency in the CIS will pass over to Turkmenistan, and we would like to reaffirm our commitment to supporting Turkmenistan in this important role. And now I'll be happy to give the floor to Secretary General of the Executive Committee of the CIS. Mr. Lebedev, please.
Journalists, media representatives, friends, this is true. The summit took place in a very good trust-based atmosphere, and we felt it when we discussed pressing issues in the narrow format meeting. All the heads of state addressed the meeting, and in their opening remarks, everyone thanked the Republic of Tajikistan for the warm welcome, traditionally warm welcome, for the high level of organization of all the events that were held in Tajikistan. And I'm not only speaking about today's session. Because this session was of a special character. For several days that heads of state were here, they held a lot of bilateral meetings, not only the weather, but the very atmosphere in Dushanbe, which was very solemn, helped hold a lot of meetings and discussions that yielded positive results. And I believe you could see it with your own eyes. Prime Minister of Armenia and President of Azerbaijan had a very warm conversation, and they were not arguing, they were not discussing some disputes, but they were discussing how to move on the path of peace and security in South Caucasus. And also these substantive discussions yielded concrete results, concrete projects. Other heads of state also held such meetings, and I saw these with my own eyes. And the leadership of Tajikistan, of Kyrgyzstan, These are two good neighbors, we can say that now, two brotherly nations who are also eager to continue to strengthen friendship and cooperation. The same goes for the relations between Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. So the words of gratitude towards the people of Tajikistan, towards the President of the Republic of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahman, I heard how sincere, how warm these words of gratitude were. And for me, as the Secretary General of the CIS, I was very happy to hear these words. Friends, as I said, or I was saying it during other meetings, and my colleague here just confirmed it, that the next year the presidency over the Commonwealth of Independent States is going to be assumed by Turkmenistan. All the heads of state supported this decision unanimously, and I would like to mention that Tajikistan remains a co-chair of the Commonwealth. And our Tajik friends, the Republic of Tajikistan, also actively cooperates within the Commonwealth of Independent States, regardless of whether they are co-chairs or not. And I'm confident that after this presidency of Tajikistan, after becoming co-chairs, they will not stop being actively engaged in all the activities of the CIS. I'm confident of this, and we can see it now already in the plans that Tajikistan will continue to be an active part of our cooperation. And our tradition is that one co-chair is the previous president of the CIS, and the next co-chair is the one who are going to become the next president of the CIS. And we made a decision that after Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan is going to preside over the Commonwealth, and starting January 1st, they're going to be the second co-chair of the Commonwealth. And I would like to draw your attention to another thing, that a number of documents that were adopted during this head of state session, and we have already mentioned these strategies and concepts that were adopted, and there is programs of cooperation. So they were adopted for the period until 2030 and even further, which says a lot about the prospects of our cooperation, of our development. And for me, as the Secretary General, it was very nice to hear it from all the heads of state that all of them are willing to maintain, to preserve the Commonwealth of Independent States, to enhance cooperation within the Commonwealth. There was not a single voice in favor of reducing or diminishing cooperation. On the contrary, everyone was saying that we need to work together. We all mentioned the growth of trade among our countries over the recent years. We had some discussions, even some disputes, that the numbers that were cited were not smaller, but actually bigger, which is also a very gladdening fact. And we also discussed practical matters. We discussed supplies of, say, agricultural produce from the Central Asian countries, including Tajikistan, to the north, which is to Russia, to Belarus, that have very acute demand in fruits and vegetables. And today we hear that maybe we can boost this kind of cooperation, not only in agriculture, but also in industry. And we heard concrete suggestions and proposals from the presidents of Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. Practically everyone were proposing and suggesting practical projects to deepen our cooperation. So I am convinced that we will continue to cooperate actively and closely next year as well. And Tajikistan will also be an active part of this. And France, of course, I have to say traditionally about the hospitality of our Tajik friends. We felt it from the very first day of our staying here. Some of our employees work here for more than a week. And both the government and the president's administration, and naturally the foreign ministry, is the body that is responsible for international relations. They all provided us with support, with attention, and all the CIS committees and bodies in Tajikistan, first of all, the foreign ministry, did everything they had to ensure that today's session were held successfully, let alone the official visits by the heads of state that also took place here, and the summit Central Asia plus Russia that happened yesterday. So we had a very busy agenda, and I'm sure that the meetings that took place here were very useful both for Tajikistan and for the other CIS member states. And from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank our Tajik friends and brothers for this support, for this assistance, and wish you all peace and happiness and prosperity. I'd like to wish it all to our brotherly Tajikistan. Thank you, Mr. Lebedev, media representatives. We are concluding our press conference, and I wish you all every success, and I wish you to enjoy your time in our capital. Thank you.